Tonight, police move in to dismantle a homeless encampment in Regina. Members of a Saskatchewan First Nation draw attention to the province's fentanyl crisis. And we tell you how wildlife adapt to wildfires and just how much rain is needed to put the fires out.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, June 17th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A homeless encampment near downtown Regina has been dismantled by police at the direction of the person who owns the site. Alexander Kwan brings us the latest and looks at what this means for the city's efforts to combat homelessness.
As this homeless encampment in Regina's heritage neighborhood is taken apart, it's the start of a familiar cycle for those who live here and those who support them.
If not here, where? Where should they go?
Roughly 30 people were staying at this encampment on a privately owned lot near Carmichael Outreach. But with police and bylaw officers moving in Tuesday at the request of the property owner, they now have to find somewhere else to stay.
And so where are we going to go next? And keep on and keep on? Like, they should do their job and help us finding a place.
It's not clear where they'll go, but those who lend support to encampment residents say this is a regular event. An encampment springs up, then it's taken down. The homeless scatter before a new space is found, and then the pattern begins all over again.
There's no solutions put in place for folks to go, so they find places where they feel safe. And so we call on all levels to be empathetic, understanding, and the need for housing.
Since 2015, the number of people experiencing homelessness in Regina has jumped by over 250%, with over 800 people homeless as of late last year. Supporters say no one is taking action or responsibility.
I guess we're here to stand in solidarity, to witness what goes on today, and then to cry even louder, housing, housing, housing. People need housing. That's what they need. They don't need to be thrown out of encampments or whatever. They need housing.
A new permanent emergency shelter is set to open just a few blocks away next month. But it doesn't mean an increase in the number of available beds. And that could mean the number of people on the streets stays the same. The city of Regina will receive millions of dollars in federal funding to deal with encampments, but it's not clear how the city has used that money so far. The city didn't answer questions sent to them by CBC on Tuesday. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
An Indigenous community is calling for urgent action to address Saskatchewan's fentanyl crisis. Members of Muscadet First Nation organized a walk from their community just south of Prince Albert to the Legislative Building in Regina. The goal of the walk is to honor lives lost to addiction and share the reality of the impact the crisis has had on Indigenous communities.
With so many deaths in a community and a recent overdose yesterday, how do we try grieve that one when we haven't finished grieving our other relatives? It's just compounded weekly. There's another death, and then there's another death.
Organizers are calling on the province to work with Indigenous communities to build solutions rooted in culture and care. That includes more treatment beds, addictions workers, and a commitment to culturally responsive healing. A new Regina charity is helping survivors of intimate partner violence move their belongings as they flee. Some of the volunteers with Shelter Movers joined CBC Radio's The Morning Edition to talk about their service and the impact it can make.
The need is quite great because our shelters have quite long wait lists and are difficult to get into. And we don't want folks staying in shelters very long. We want them to be able to move to safer places that they feel comfortable in. And we want them to be able to retain their belongings. When a woman leaves her abuser, one of the most difficult choices is about leaving your belongings behind and her children's belongings. And, you know, those are the items that really anchor you in difficult situations. And so for us to be able to help her retain those belongings is a really big deal emotionally and has a very big economic impact as well.
And there is support available for people affected by intimate partner violence. You can visit pathssk.org to find transition housing or call 911 if you are in immediate danger. Well, Saskatchewan's latest budget has increased funding for the province's short-line railways. The government says rail transportation is crucial for Saskatchewan's economy to thrive, but some say more money is needed. Katie Swires has that story.
Last week, the opposition NDP were all over short-line railways in Saskatchewan. Those are the smaller rail lines used to transport goods to larger railways.
I've got two calls today. One is for the province to increase their funding to short-line rail in this province, something that we've seen stagnated in this province since 2017. The other call is to have the province and the federal government work together to develop a country-wide short-line rail strategy.
And Tuesday, Highways Minister David Merritt responded.
Every short line is getting base $45,000. Some short lines will utilize that money and some won't, right? Whether they don't need it or whatever the case may be. The money will be used up.
The money is not new, though. The province committed $1 million for the sector back in March in the provincial budget. And some in the industry say it won't go far enough.
That $1 million is split up between 13 railways, and if you have a lot of miles on your track, you get a lot more money than the person that has less miles. So it's a good start, but I do believe we could use a little more of an influx to help maintain these lines.
But Merritt defends the amount.
Everybody can always say they can always use more, right? I mean, this was over an 80% increase in the funding.
The NDP says the last time the government gave short-line rails $1 million was back in 2017, when there were only 8 companies operating in Saskatchewan. And costs for things like labor and fuel have only gone up since then.
I don't think we want to be seen as we're kind of all lined up with our hand out saying, well, it was me, we need help. You know, really our role is very robust in the supply chain. We contribute to a lot of freight traffic, safety and environment, and we're actually looking for growth.
That growth could happen at the federal level. He says he is hoping to see more federal funding support for short-line rails across the country. Katie Swires, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatoon's power grid is getting a boost with construction of a new solar farm. The Dundonald Avenue Solar Farm is the first utility-scale solar project implemented by Saskatoon Light and Power. The 2.8 megawatt facility is on an open area of land east of the Montgomery Place neighborhood along Circle Drive. It's roughly the size of about 8 football fields.
In that site, we're going to install about 5,000 solar panels, which would comprise of that 2.8 total system size. And the solar panels will be arranged east to west along the length of the site, and we're hoping, it'll produce enough electricity to power about 400 homes in Saskatoon.
Chair Valat says it's an ideal site because the land can't be used for anything else, and it has excellent exposure to the sun. The solar farm is expected to be up and running by the end of the year. Well, sometimes all you need is a little guidance from an auntie. Maxine Pegan is an Indigenous mental health therapist who saw that need for young Indigenous girls. So she created an 8-week Auntie Program for girls aged 12 to 18, and it targets social issues that impact them.
The topics that we talk about go from trauma and intergenerational trauma. We talk about suicide ideation, drugs and alcohol, passage of rights, because a lot of our young girls don't have those teachings in their home fires. We talk about healthy relationship and boundaries with ourselves and eventually with partners. And there's a lot of healing that comes in these circles. There's a lot of unpacking. A lot of the girls end up sharing. A lot of these girls have their own stories. They have their own hurts. They come here and they resonate, they relate, they cry, some talk, some are just listening. We do debriefing, and so a lot of the girls learn lots, and I do surveys at the end of the program, and it's always so heartfelt because them too, it's almost like grief is visiting because they don't want they don't want it to stop. Well, my future plans for the Auntie Program is to provide healing and provide awareness and to provide a space that these young girls, to make them feel that they're not alone and going through what they're going through. Being Indigenous girls, we're impacted, period, right? And so having this resource, having this program, showing that someone cares, spending that time with them and providing those tools for them and the therapy modules that are implemented in the program, it just provides so much love, belonging, connection, unity, and just healing overall.
Well, clear skies, warm temperatures, even a little bit sticky in Regina Tuesday. That sticky weather has made for a stormy end to the day for some of us, and there is a good chance that there's more of that storm activity on the way. Weather specialist Helena Mahalik has the details in her full forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thousands of people in dozens of communities across our province have been affected by wildfires this year. But what about the wildlife living in the province's boreal forest? Jeremy Warren has more on how they are surviving this historic wildfire season.
He was on the road for 2 days, and I thought the mother would find it, so we picked it up. We took it to the COs.
A moose calf apparently abandoned in the chaos of wildfires surrounding Pelican Narrows. It was rescued by Ovid Michel and a crew of firefighters. They hoped to reunite it with its mother. The boreal forest has burned for millennia, and many animal and plant species have adapted to survive or even thrive in wildfire conditions. In fact, wildfire is almost essential in the boreal forest. Some birds eat beetles that are attracted to flame-damaged trees, and the cones of the jack pine tree only open and release seeds under intense heat.
It is important to create that sort of regenerative habitat for those species that depend on it. The challenge, of course, is that for other species that do require more mature forest, the extent of fires that we're seeing throughout the boreal forest, arguably exacerbated because of climate change, is a bit of a problem.
Another problem? The unusually early start to this year's wildfire season.
This time of year, many species are giving birth, so younger animals, nestling birds, or animals that are unable to flee, that may be less mobile, may be impacted, may be unable to escape the fire.
That's what the Pelican Narrows fire crew thought when they found the moose calf, but it's not clear if it was abandoned. Moose often leave their young hidden in brush or grass to protect them from predators.
We took it back the afternoon, and we went to go check up on it the following evening. Kind of snuck around driving through, the fires to Sounds of the North, and came back that evening. He's gone. Went back the next morning. He's gone. So I'm hoping the mother went back and found it.
Wildlife officials recommend leaving animals alone and to report any abandoned or injured animals to conservation officers. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
And the wildfire situation continues to improve in the province, but there are still many fires that are burning, and it will take a lot of time for them to be put out for good. Weather specialist Helena Mahalik tells us just how long that could take.
Wildfires rage on in Saskatchewan. Warm temperatures, little to no rain, and strong winds have contributed to the province's worst wildfire season in over a decade. One thing is clear, no matter how many firefighters are sent to battle the flames, it's up to Mother Nature to put them out. Experts agree, the only solution is rain.
Saying 5 to 10 millimeters goes a really long way to help suppression efforts, but that's not enough to really change the season or change outcomes at all. It's that consistent rain, which really can make a difference. A 2-day event helps in the short term, but we need consistent and long-term rainfall to make a season difference.
We have seen some rain in the past few weeks, but a lot of those showers have come with thunderstorms. When lightning strikes, it releases enough heat to ignite any dry plant material on the ground.
Any benefit from the rain is more than outweighed by the new
the lightning, which may start new fires, and often the winds associated with some of these cells can help fires grow.
Winds gusting over 30 kilometers an hour cause fires to grow even faster, and that makes them harder to suppress. The wind also makes things drier.
Strong winds can help dry out things like grasses or your smaller twigs more quickly. And so that in itself is problematic for fires in that you get that additional drying, increase of the hazard.
Experts say the rest of the summer may be hot and dry, and that could mean some fires may not be fully extinguished this summer.
I'm afraid that some of these fires will burn through the summer into fall, and it'll be winter that puts out most of these fires. And in fact, sometimes fires can burn right through the winter. We call them overwintering fires.
The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency says this happened last winter. And if that happens again this winter, it could make the next wildfire season just as bad or even worse.
And Helena joins us now for a look at the forecast. And I guess the only question now, Helena, is there going to be some rain coming to help those fires?
Yes, Ethan. Well, although experts were predicting a dry summer, this next week is full of rain and it's going to help our air quality. Let's take a look at our smoke forecast. So we're definitely seeing things improve throughout the province. We're seeing our air quality much improved, although there is a chance for some areas on Wednesday around Prince Albert to be affected by the fires in northern Alberta. Tuesday evening in the province, we are seeing a severe thunderstorm watch in the southwest areas like Swift Current and Maple Creek. This system could produce quarter to loonie-sized hail and wind gusts of up to 100 kilometers an hour. This system is going to move into the southeast areas around Yorkton as the night goes on. Wednesday, we're going to continue to see that rainfall for central Saskatchewan and areas around the northern grain belt. And all throughout the week, this rain continues. Thursday, a bit clearer skies, but we're still seeing some scattered showers with a risk of thunderstorms throughout central Saskatchewan and some areas of the north Thursday afternoon. It's much the same as we get into Friday, but clearer skies, just that slight chance for some areas in the north or also areas in the southwest. Just how much rain are we going to get for south and central Saskatchewan after a few days of rainfall? Well, the Saskatoon area could get up to 10 millimeters of rain, whereas other areas not quite as much. Areas around Regina only just above a millimeter of rain. Areas like Val-Marie and Carlisle could also get enough, close to around 10 millimeters in these areas. Tuesday evening, we're seeing wind gusts, and that continues into Wednesday, around 30 kilometers an hour winds throughout central Saskatchewan as they experience that chance of a storm, but the rest of the province only feeling a light breeze. As we get into Thursday, we're seeing, again, lighter winds, but around central areas, we're continuing to see those 30 kilometers an hour wind gusts. Areas in the north could receive up to 40 kilometers an hour as we continue to see rainfall with a chance of showers throughout much of the province, producing some stronger winds. Temperatures will continue to feel quite warm in the province for southern Saskatchewan. Temperatures hovering around 25 degrees throughout the rest of the week. Central areas around Saskatoon may be feeling just a little bit cooler as the week goes on with all of that rainfall. Temperatures hovering just above the 20-degree mark, so just a little bit below seasonal for this time of year, Ethan, but we are always happy to see some rainfall.
Yeah, we sure are, and I don't know what it is. I know the lightning is not necessarily great, but opening up the window, hearing a thunderstorm at night, it's sort of a comforting feeling come summer.
It's really cozy. If you get a book, hear the rain, I love it.
Exactly. All right, Helena, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
Riverbank with all my friends, a big old rope tied to land.
Country star Brad Paisley is coming to Winnipeg as the headliner of the 2025 Grey Cup Festival. Paisley will take the stage at Canada Life Centre on November 14th, ahead of the Grey Cup game on the 16th. Tickets go on sale Friday, and there is still no word yet, by the way, on who will be playing the halftime show. Stay with us. We'll have the latest from Tuesday's rider practice and a final look at the forecast after the break. Welcome back. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are back on the practice field after their 28-23 victory in Hamilton over the weekend. Roland Milligan was a standout again with a 64-yard interception for a touchdown. And after a slow start, Keyshawn Johnson and A.J. Willette had big performances on the offensive side, both finding the end zone. But quarterback Trevor Harris says the win did not come without some early struggles.
You know, they did a great job for the first, couple quarters, 2 quarters and a half, and they were able to take away our primaries. They did a good job. They mixed up their blitzes, they mixed up their looks. I thought they, give them credit, but you've also got to give credit to Mark Mueller. He's able to adjust and, make quick adjustments, stuff that we have built into our game plans each and every week. And he did a tremendous job, and we were able to kind of, be able to do some good things when it counted the most, be able to put together 3 really good drives toward the end of the game.
Receiver Sam Emelis did not finish the game against Hamilton and was not at practice Tuesday. The Riders are back on the road later this week. They are heading to Toronto to take on the defending Grey Cup champion Argonauts on Friday. And Helena is back now with a final look at our forecast.
There's lots of rain ahead of us for Saskatoon and Regina. Let's take a look at the forecast for the city of Regina. The rest of the work week, we're seeing a 30% chance of thunderstorms. Temperatures remaining still warm, though, above that 25-degree mark. Overnight lows still above seasonal for this time of year. There's a day of relief Friday. The sun's coming back out, no rainfall. But as we get into our weekend, there's a good chance it's going to rain, an 80% chance. And we're seeing Sunday temperatures dropping down by 5 degrees, and we're getting into the mid-teens. Temperatures feeling just a little bit cooler, and so are our overnight lows. As we get into the rest of the work week, we're seeing that rainfall continue, but the sun may be back out. A lot of rain in Saskatoon as well, and I wish I was seeing just a little bit more sun. The rest of the work week, again, we're seeing a chance of thunderstorms, a 30 to 60% chance. And as we get into the weekend, we're seeing that rainfall continuing, bringing our temperatures down by close to 10 degrees even by Sunday. So temperatures feeling much cooler, and so will our overnight lows. So we're seeing that chance of rainfall continuing through much of the province, Ethan. So this is definitely your time to stay in and listen to the rain.
Yeah, exactly. Cozy up, grab a blanket. We know we definitely need it. Helena, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ethan.
And that is it for us. For more news anytime, you can always head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And of course, you can also download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.